And we've all come here today because I know we all believe that there's a lot to celebrate in our efforts to protect the environment of our state, and a lot of work ahead for us to do. I look very much forward in the coming months to introduce legislation in the House that will create the John H. Chafee Blackstone River Valley National Historic Park right here in Woonsocket. And I'm really delighted to be able to be the sponsor of the House version of that bill, and we're all going to have to work really closely together to make that a reality. The designation of a historical park will ensure the protection and promotion of this really vital historical, environmental, and educational resource for our state and for our country. I also want to acknowledge, as was mentioned, the city of Woonsocket and the 5 other Rhode Island communities that support the principles of complete and safe streets and have signed into law their goals to include bicycle and walking paths in their future infrastructure plans. A really important first step, giving real meaning to those resolutions now is the work that is ahead, but those 5 communities should be applauded, and I really thank them for doing that. But I think we're also here because we recognize why we have some things to celebrate. There are a lot of dangers and a lot of things which are really threatening our environment, our economy, and our ability to really build a sustainable community here in Rhode Island and all across this country. And I think it will require us to work together in a really smart and serious way to confront and overcome these challenges. We're here because we believe that our national government, that Congress, our state and local governments and the policymakers in those places have to continue to focus on making energy and transportation affordable for consumers and sustainable for our environment. As gas prices continue to decline, particularly earlier this year, I supported legislation to provide relief at the pump in the short term, and also co-sponsored legislation to advance long-term energy policies that will help to build the renewable and clean energy sector in our country, that will close tax loopholes for big oil companies, protect consumers from Wall Street speculators, and make the necessary investments, the critical investments in clean energy technology that will end our dependence on foreign oil and put people back to work at the same time. It's smart environmental policy, it's smart economic policy, and it will create jobs, and it's the right thing to do. But as many of you have heard, there are, and certainly read about, there are those in Washington who are trying to ignore what we are saying about protecting the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we live upon. There are those in Washington who claim increasing energy efficiency standards in motor vehicles and preventing mercury from spewing into the air we breathe are somehow irresponsible. There are those in Washington who are really engaged in an all-out assault, the worst in a generation, on clean air, clean water, and on land conservation efforts through really appalling and devastating cuts to interior and environment appropriations. There are those in Washington who feel that there's no need to ensure a place for our pedestrians, cyclists, and public transportation in our surface transportation bill, which is, of course, outrageous. And I'm here today to tell you how proud I am to stand up for all of you and for all of Rhode Islanders, and to stand up to these forces in the Congress who are saying that no matter how hard we work, no matter how convincing our case is, that they're simply not going to protect our water, our air, and the environment, and the job opportunities that are attached to these efforts. And I'm very proud to have the privilege of standing up to these forces on your behalf, and I'm going to continue to do that in Washington. We're not going to let them Thank you. We're not going to let them line the pockets of big oil companies while we're left feeling the pain at the pump. We're not going to let them dismantle common sense environmental protections that were built up over generations in a bipartisan way, while the evidence tells us that destroying the Clean Air Act will cost lives and jobs in our state and in our country. And we're certainly not going to let them deprive our state and our country of our transportation choices, while time and again, they prove that the greatest transit options we have, and the greater transit options we can provide, the greater opportunity is to rebuild our economy and build sustainable communities. And you have all been incredible advocates on these issues, and we're going to need your advocacy to continue. We need to be sure our voices are heard, not just for our delegation, because we have already been convinced, but adding your voices to help convince other policymakers at other levels of government and the rest of the Congress is incredibly important. So I'm here really to say thank you. I appreciate the work that we're going to do together. This is, to me, an unusual opportunity to both protect our environment, to protect, what was built up over many decades, clean air, clean water, the sustainability of our communities, and at the same time, take serious steps to begin to rebuild our economy and create jobs. This is a win on 3 levels. Thank you for understanding that. I'm proud to be your champion, and thank you for your support.